On March 8, 2014, a massive Boeing 777 took off on a routine overnight flight. But it never landed. It and the 239 people on board simply vanished. Today, we're diving into what is, without a doubt, one of the most heartbreaking and baffling aviation mysteries of all time.
I mean, really think about that for a second. How does a 200-ton piece of modern engineering, filled with 239 lives, just disappear from the face of the Earth in our modern age? It's the one terrifying question that has haunted families, investigators, and all of us for over a decade.
So let's look at how it started. Everything was completely, totally normal. A textbook takeoff. The plane climbed to its cruising altitude right on schedule. For the first 39 minutes, MH370 was just another flight crossing the night sky. Everything was perfect, until suddenly, it wasn't. This is what's so unbelievably haunting. These were the very last words ever heard from the plane. A calm, standard sign-off from the captain. No stress, no alarm in his voice, nothing to suggest anything was wrong. Just a simple, and now a truly chilling goodnight. Just 2 minutes after that call, the plane's transponder, the device that tells civilian radar, hey, here I am, it just cut out. On the screens of air traffic controllers, the little icon representing 239 souls just blinked and was gone. Okay, so the plane disappears from civilian radar and the world scrambles. The first search started in the South China Sea, right where it vanished. But they found nothing. Absolutely nothing. It turns out the clues weren't in the sky. They were hidden in these faint digital whispers the plane left behind. And this is where the mystery gets a whole lot darker. Days later, military radar data was released, and what it showed was horrifying. The plane didn't just disappear. Someone, or something, made a sharp, deliberate turn, flying it back across Malaysia and out into the vast, empty Indian Ocean, the total opposite direction of its destination. So you're probably asking, how did they know it went that way? Well, get this. Even with its main communication gear turned off, the plane's satellite unit kept trying to connect to a satellite overhead. It's kind of like your phone automatically searching for Wi-Fi. These pings, or handshakes, didn't give a GPS location, but they were proof. The plane was still flying for hours. By analyzing how long each of these pings took to reach the satellite, investigators could draw these massive arcs on a map, showing where the plane could have been at a given time. And that seventh and final arc, hours after the plane disappeared, that became the grim new focus of the entire search. The plane had to be somewhere along that line. What followed was just unbelievable. The largest, most expensive search in aviation history. We're talking $160 million. For 3 solid years, teams scoured one of the most remote parts of our planet. They mapped underwater volcanoes no one knew were there, but they found no trace of the main wreckage. Eventually, the search was suspended. With the search coming up empty, the question shifted from where the plane was to why it disappeared. What on earth could have happened? The investigation really boiled down to 3 main theories, and each one is more disturbing than the last. So let's start with the one that sends a shiver down your spine. The theory that the captain himself, a highly respected pilot, deliberately flew that plane and its 239 passengers to their doom. Now, the evidence for this is sinister. Experts say that sharp turn had to have been made by a human hand, not the autopilot. Then, the plane seems to hug the border between countries, a known tactic to avoid detection by military radar. And the most damning piece of all? A flight path very similar to the plane's final journey was found deleted from the captain's home flight simulator. But, and this is a really big but, this theory has major holes. Captain Shaw was a respected family man and a senior pilot with an impeccable record. Investigators dug into every aspect of his life, his finances, his mental health, his relationships, and found nothing. No motive whatsoever for such a horrific act. So if it wasn't the pilot, the next logical question is, could someone else have taken control of the plane? Could this have been a hijacking? Early on, this seemed like a real possibility. 2 passengers had boarded the plane using stolen passports, a massive red flag. But investigators quickly figured out they were probably just asylum seekers trying to get to Europe. Interpol confirmed they had no ties to terrorism. And with no group ever claiming responsibility, this theory just didn't hold up. This brings us to the third theory, and the one that many experts believe is the most plausible. It's called the ghost flight scenario, and it is absolutely terrifying to imagine. So just imagine this. A sudden event happens on board, maybe an electrical fire or a rapid depressurization. The pilots follow their training and turn the plane back towards the nearest safe airport. But before they can do anything else, a lack of oxygen, hypoxia, incapacitates them and everyone else on board. The plane, now a ghost ship, flies on autopilot for hours across the ocean until it finally runs out of fuel. For years, the case just went cold. The theories were all anyone had. But recently, a stunning new development, using incredible technology, has offered a new glimmer of hope that we might finally find MH370. It all comes down to the work of one man, a British aerospace engineer named Richard Godfrey. He has spent his retirement obsessed with this mystery, and he believes he's found the plane not by searching the ocean, but by analyzing a completely different kind of data. Godfrey used this incredible technology called WSPR net. Basically, it's a giant, invisible net of amateur radio signals that crisscross the globe. His revolutionary idea was that a massive airplane flying through this net would create tiny disturbances, like a ship creating a wake in the water. By analyzing these tiny tripwires, he claims he's been able to track the plane's final exact flight path. His calculations point to a very specific spot, right on that seventh arc. A spot where the ocean floor is a staggering 4,000 meters down. That's 2.5 miles deep, among rugged underwater mountains. So what makes this theory so compelling? Well, his proposed location is just barely outside the original massive search zone, which would explain why it was missed. Even more incredible, when you analyze ocean currents, the 27 pieces of confirmed debris that washed ashore all trace back perfectly to his spot. It all lines up, and he's now proposed a new, much smaller, more focused search. And that's where we stand today, with a credible new theory and a precise place to look. For the families of the 239 people on board who have lived with this agonizing uncertainty for so long, this is the best hope they've had in years. The only question left is, will this new clue finally bring the truth and some measure of peace to the surface?